All right, let's get right into it. You know, when we hear about massive corporate breaches, what comes to mind? Probably some super sophisticated, almost movie-like hacker, right? But the truth? Well, the reality from countless incident reports is way less exciting.
Yeah, the vast majority of these breaches, they're not some genius, brand new attack vector. They're actually breakdowns in the most basic processes. Simple failures of control, happening quietly, right inside your own walls.
So, what does a failure like this even look like in the real world? Well, it could be something as simple as an undocumented change made during a firefighting emergency, or maybe it's just weak discipline around how you deploy things to production. These small, tiny actions that seem harmless at the time, they're the ones bypassing all your established controls. And there's a name for this whole thing: configuration drift. Think of it like this. It's the slow, creeping gap between how your systems should be configured for security and how they actually are day to day. Every little manual tweak, every patch that isn't properly documented, it just widens that gap. And here's what's so dangerous about it. Drift isn't a single event. It's more like a chronic illness for your infrastructure. It creates this hidden layer of risk that just sits there, growing over time. And guess what? Your security and compliance teams, they might not even know it exists. So let's break down how this happens. An engineer, probably under pressure, makes a direct change to a live system to fix something urgent. In that one moment, they've bypassed everything. All the controls, the code reviews, the security checks, your entire deployment pipeline. Poof, gone. And that is where the governance nightmare really starts. Because your official audit trail, the one you absolutely depend on for compliance, it just went dark. It has no record of that manual change, no reason why, no approval. Your single source of truth isn't telling the whole truth anymore. Sure, your system logs might show that a change happened. They can prove an event took place at a certain time. That's a fact. But, and this is the critical part, those logs can't tell you why it happened, or even more importantly, who gave the green light. They show the what, but they're completely silent on the why and the who. Which brings us to the big question, doesn't it? The one every single executive and board member needs to be asking. When a breach happens because of this drift and your audit trail has nothing to say about how that happened, who's on the hook? Who is accountable? Well, especially here in the UAE, the answer is crystal clear. You can delegate the hands-on operational work, but you can never delegate the oversight. It's non-negotiable. In fact, the UAE Commercial Companies Law is so specific on this. It says that any attempt to write away an officer's personal liability is null and void. It just won't stand up. That responsibility sticks with you, period. So let's connect the dots here. If that oversight is your personal legal duty, and you have no audit trail to prove you did your job, you're left with almost no defense when something goes wrong. The silence of your records becomes the biggest piece of evidence against you. The key takeaway is this: you can't just assume you have good governance. In today's world, you have to be able to prove it. It has to be demonstrable. So how do you do that? How do you make it demonstrable? It really comes down to a three-step protocol. First, every single change has to go through a controlled, automated pipeline. No exceptions. Second, that pipeline has to create a continuous, unbreakable chain of evidence for every single action. And third, all that evidence has to feed directly into a system that allows for verifiable executive oversight. Now, this structured way of thinking, this is the core of what we call the AELION protocol. It's built from the ground up to bridge that dangerous gap between what's happening on the ground and what executives can actually see and verify. Look, of course prevention matters. You absolutely want to stop a breach before it starts. Strong controls and automation are essential. But from a liability standpoint, from a governance standpoint, proof matters more. The ultimate defense isn't just saying you tried to prevent it. It's having the undeniable, rock-solid proof that you exercised your duty of oversight. That proof is what separates a simple operational failure from a major executive exposure. You've been watching an AELION Executive Intelligence Briefing on configuration drift and the evidentiary burden of executive oversight. Thank you.